Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Episode 240. We're playing some Monster Hunter Rise here, obviously, and I'm just gonna be roaming around on an expedition very casually, because I am exhausted. It has been a very long day.
Here's the quest list. Don't forget to eat.
Basically, I'm pleased to announce that I have an accepted offer on a house. Obviously, that's a bit of ways away from actually closing on a house and moving in, but it's a good step. It's definitely a good step. I am pleased. Exhausted, but pleased. My realtor called me up very early this morning. I don't want to go into too many details about it for various reasons. One being that I'm tired, but basically this seller of this property, he went with like a flat fee agency to sell the house. Apparently because all his friends went with it, but it just didn't really work out in this situation for him. And they were not very communicative. They wouldn't like answer my realtor's phone calls and stuff. Just pretty shitty.
You're done for.
And we had put in an offer on this house because I've been talking about this house thing for a number of weeks now. This is the house that I originally said I was like, there's like a 1% chance of me buying this house when I first went and saw it. And now, go figure, that's the house I'm buying. That's life, I guess. So I've liked this house for a while. We finally put in an offer. We went and saw it twice. We put in an offer. It got completely ignored. It expired. We never heard anything about it. That's just rude. That's just damn rude. So then we heard, basically this house, the basement was really not finished. It's pretty much an unfinished basement, which I'm okay with because I've got some specific ideas in mind of what to do with the basement. You know, a single nerdy bachelor. I've got some things in my head. No, that sounds worse than what I mean it to be. I just mean it's not going to be a conventional. Like, it's not going to be bad. It wouldn't be that bad. It's just I have an image in my head of what I want. And the seller had some plans originally in mind of what he wanted to do with the basement, but it didn't exactly mesh with what I wanted. I don't want like a fireplace down there. Whatever. I don't want a rec room down there. Or like a little media room. A man cave, I think, is what he had in mind. And I don't want a man cave because, like, my office is my man cave. I want a theater room. It's different. So anyways, we heard, like, the next day after being ignored that the seller had started, like, working on the basement. this was big news to us. He had apparently started working on it between our second showing and putting in the offer, so he thought we weren't interested. And he was just going to go ahead and finish the basement and try and, like, relist later on or something like that. But this concerned me because obviously I didn't want him to do something to the basement that I had to then rip out or pay for or what have you. So I'm like, all right, well, hold on, hold your horses. Let's see if we can't make something work. So we actually went over there again, a third showing, just to see what had happened to the basement. And the seller was there. He stuck around because he is not happy with his agency either. And he just wanted to chat with us and just, you know, let's just figure it out. Ended up being a really nice guy, which is great. That's always helpful. And we looked at the basement of what he had done. He had basically done stuff so far that I would have done anyways, so I was perfectly happy. And he was like, I've got all this lumber here. I've got this lighting here. If you want, we can put this in. If not, you know, you can have it. Whatever. You know, if we come to an agreement. So it's all good. And it seemed like, you know, this guy wants to come to an agreement. We want to come to an agreement. His agency is shit ass. Let's see if we can't come to something. So we decide to put in another offer that day. And we were debating between putting in the exact same offer and just trying to get a response, you know, rather than just being ignored. Or if we put in another offer and we sort of bump it up a little bit to sort of entice him. Because it seemed like, just from the conversation, he wanted a little bit more money. And my concern was that if we go in and we throw in a little bit of more money in an offer, this guy's going to be like, oh, they're playing ball, they've got more money, let's see where we can take this. He'll counter with an even higher offer, which I would probably accept, just to get it done. But I'm like, no, let's go in with the same offer, he'll counter with something higher, and that'll be the end of it. And that's exactly what happened. Exciting end to the story. Actually, that's not exactly what happened, because we put in the second offer. He never even saw it. Like, a whole day went by. His agency never even gave it to him. Because they were apparently on vacation or something. It's like, motherfuckers, you got a phone. Use it. So my realtor broke the rules and actually called up the seller herself, because he had given her his cell phone number and was like, look, you know, we all know this isn't how it's supposed to go. Not really how the rules are supposed to play out, but, you know, he's like, I just want to come to an agreement here. I'll keep everything hush hush, you know, whatever. Like I said, he's a nice guy. We trust him. So she called him up. They sussed some things out. And she even asked him, like, you know, what is the number that it's going to come to? You know, what is it going to take? So, yeah. After that, because that's when he told her that he had not even seen the offer yet. So he sort of like nudged his agency without really saying anything specific. And then he saw the offer, he countered, I agreed, we're done. Just a lot of unnecessary headaches because he picked some shitty agency. And he regrets it, of course, but yeah, I guess it worked out in my favor in the end. So yeah. So I got called up real early in the morning. Sort of, because that was after she had talked to the seller to tell me some stuff. And I'm like, all right, all sounds good. I'm like, I'm laying in bed. It's like, you could tell me anything, and I'll say okay. Then I couldn't fall asleep because I'm like, oh shit, I'm buying a fucking house. I couldn't fall back asleep. Finally, after I eat lunch, I go down to take a nap. Like 40 minutes later, I get another call, and it's like, all right, well, you know, your offer's been accepted, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. Yeah. So then, yeah. Then I had to do a bunch of talking with the mortgage broker and the phone calls, and then go to a birthday party for 5 hours. I'm just like fucking done. Anyways, you might not care about any of that. So long story short, I'm not gonna make this video too long. Right. So this week on this channel, we finished up Doom Eternal DLC, all that's good. We've got Divinity Original Sin 2, that's still going strong. Monster Hunter Rise, that's going to be continuing on for a while. On Wednesday we did Bloodborne just because I was busy and it was the anniversary. It was like, screw it, sounds good. Two Brothers Play, we actually finished a game for the first time ever. Finished a video game on that series. So we finished Final Fantasy X, and we started up some Monster Hunter Rise co-op, which was fun. We'll continue to do that for, I don't know how long, 2 to 3 weeks or something. Yeah, roll manging was on Monday. It's all good. So most of that's just continuing. Yeah. So this week, Wednesday, for the variety stream, we're going to be doing Little Hope. Which should be a little campy and should be a little fun and should be fine and all that. That's good. And the rest is pretty much as I said it. Over on the Exploring series, I put out a video on the Oniroi Collective. I definitely saw some comments that were unsure of my pronunciation on that. I don't know. You know, I certainly tried to find someone pronouncing that word. And the tricky thing when looking up to how to pronounce like obscure words is generally most of what you find is like speech to text or text to speech sort of stuff. Text to speech with like a Greek accent or whatever. And I can't trust that. You know, you watch these like 20-second YouTube videos where some computer voice tells you how to pronounce this word, and generally it's wildly incorrect. So I think what I trusted in this case was like, I think it was some sort of forum discussion that was talking about how to pronounce Oniroi, and I was like, all right, this guy seems confident. But yeah, I don't know. And it's like, how could I ever know the actual correct pronunciation unless I learn Greek or something? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a good source that I didn't find, but it's not a big deal. Most people don't care, don't know, don't care. I also put out the 6th episode of Final Fantasy XIV, Heresy in the Icy North. Views for that series continue to go down and down and down and down. And yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to waste that much time and effort on something that no one in the wide world is interested in watching. I mean, that's just... That channel is for my job. That channel is to earn me money. That's it. You know? So, if I'm putting time and effort into a video, at the end of the day, it pretty much does need to earn me money. Because I guarantee I could spend way less effort and time just putting out a video every couple weeks of just me reading like a creepypasta or something like that, and I would probably make way more money than what I'm getting from the Final Fantasy videos. Now, I like Final Fantasy 14. I think it has potential. I think there's a potential audience somewhere out there. But, you know, if YouTube never throws it around for whatever reason, then it's just going to languish. So, the next video will finish up A Realm Reborn. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. Next week's SCP video is Prometheus Labs, another group of interest. Very sci-fi, tech stuff. Just a handful of interesting little tech pieces. The group itself, there's not much to say about them. They were just an anomalous tech company, and they did tech stuff, and now they're gone for unknown reasons. There you go. It's just another sort of compilation. And then next week, I'll be working on Parawatch, another group of interest. Of basically like a group of internet conspiracy theorists that sort of like uncover SCPs and things like that. And the Foundation can't really like crack down on them for what I know. Well, whatever. It's all right. You know, we're going through everything. Everything SCP is getting touched on. Yeah, so that's all that. Roll manging. So roll manging in Numenera. Basically, we finally commenced the killing of the Red Lord. Ziggy definitely tried to make it a little challenging for us. We had sort of set this up where he had offered us the opportunity to just leave the area if we wanted, to just leave the area and leave these people to him. And we were like, okay, we're gonna take that option, but then we're gonna turn around and backstab him. But Ziggy basically had the Red Lord do exactly that to us. So when we started to walk past, he ambushed us. So yeah, we went in with a disadvantage. Didn't matter. We still kicked his ass. None of us died. And that's primarily, if I must say so, due to me. You know, I had known when I made the character that I wouldn't be able to just like look at somebody and turn their blood into like daggers or whatever. Like that's crazy. And so we'd come up with the restriction that I had to physically touch the water source in order to, or the liquid source in order to use it, in order to shape it. But then I was like, okay, well, when I touch the ocean in order to shape some of the ocean into an object, I'm not touching all of the ocean. You know, I'm just touching like, you know, a very tiny little part of it with my finger, and that counts. And then I can make like a whole sword or something, or a whole shield out of it. By that logic, then, if I were to cut someone and touch like the wound and touch the blood that's on their arm, I should have access to the rest of the blood that's in their body because it's all connected. And that's basically what we decided, was that as long as it's like a continuous stream, I can transform it. So the plan was to basically get a cut on the Red Lord, and then I touch his arm, and then I transform his blood into an object, and that basically would kill anybody. And that's what happened. I gave them like spiked whips, and Mert had a water sword, and they managed to get a couple cuts on him. I leaped forward, I touched him, and I converted his blood into like basically spiked ropes. And he took a whole bunch of damage and then died. Because how on earth would you survive that? And so we won, and we were great heroes, and blah, blah, blah. And we searched his little hut, his cabin. We found some minor stuff. We found basically this, like, communicator that we fired up, and it allowed us to communicate with someone else, like another individual that looked like the Red Lord. So apparently there's like a whole crew of these individuals, and they operate out of some city somewhere, and they occasionally send him like supplies, and they take part of his like tribute that he gets from the village and stuff. So I basically lied and I said I was one of his servants, and he's not feeling well, and I tried to get a location out of them. I tried like, oh, he needs some medicine. And they're like, oh, we'll send it with the next shipment. I was like, oh, can we speed that up somehow? Can we come somewhere to get it ourselves? Blah, blah, blah. But that was a no-go. So for now, they think everything is, you know, they think he's still alive, and they think it's okay, and they're sending a shipment of some medicine that we can probably use. And yeah, that was basically it. We're just sort of deciding what to do. You know, these sessions that we're doing are very short. So we're not getting a whole lot done, especially because our group tends to spend a lot of time just faffing about, sort of deciding the best course of action about certain things and blah, blah, blah. But it was good to kill the Red Lord. That felt good. Even though it was mostly just because of me. I think without me, I don't think we'd ever kill the Red Lord. We would have had like almost no weapons, no armor, no shields. And we would have just had to manually hit him down and take him down. And we needed to roll like an 18 in order to hit him. I mean, he was a tough son of a bitch. So yeah, but that opened up this discussion amongst us about, you know, for one, that was 2 sessions we played, and we ended up getting like around 4 XP each after 2 sessions. In order to go from tier 1 to tier 2 and to get a new ability for your character takes 16 XP. So by that rate, we wouldn't get to tier 2 until 8 sessions. There are 6 tiers in the game. I mean, it's just like, it's far too much playtime in order to level up and get to some cool stuff. And maybe some people like that. I mean, you do get like little bonuses along the way, but we started comparing that to Shadow of the Demon Lord, where you're meant to like level up every session, and it's just like, it's impossible to make like a boring character in that game, and it's just incredible. Because Thomas was like, you know, Mangg can like shape any liquid he finds. He can turn people's blood into ropes. You know, he can do all this incredible stuff. Instead, he has a boar that he can control. And his boar died in like the first round of combat against the Red Lord before it even could do anything. It's just not really equal. It's not really fair. And he isn't too happy with his choice. Because eventually he gets to like control whole swarms of creatures, which is what he wants. But again, we'd have to play for like 30 weeks in order to get to that point. We're never going to do that. Whereas if we played Shadow of the Demon Lord, he could be controlling beasts or something in session 1. Yeah, he could be doing all sorts of cool stuff. So we sat there after Ziggy left, and we were like, Shadow of the Demon Lord would be very cool. Just switching this campaign, or switching the system keeping the same story, keeping the same characters, and just transferring it. That would be cool. Or if we do stick to Numenera, we really need faster XP gain, faster leveling, because we're never going to see... I don't think we'd even see tier 2, let alone anything else. And when you spend like 8 weeks and all you get is like a slight upgrade to one of your earlier abilities, it's just lame. So I spoke that over with Ziggy, and at least for tomorrow he decided we're going to stick with Numenera, but we'll have faster XP. So, I mean, I'm happy with my character and what he can do, but obviously, why wouldn't I be? I think Thomas is going to change his focus to something more interesting. But, yeah, we'll see where it goes. This must be really boring to listen to me. And my family game night.
Have a taste of this.
My mom DM'd a session that she had concocted herself. She had created her own scenario, and she DM'd it. And I did not like it. And that's really just a problem with me. Everyone else at the table really liked it. They had a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughs going around. I think they really liked it. But I was just kind of miserable. I was also really exhausted because I've been exhausted for the last like 5 days straight. That probably contributed to it. But my problem with it was basically she is a massive pushover as a DM. She does not want anyone to die. She does not want any character to hit 0 HP because she thinks that really will depress people. And she does not want anyone to die because she doesn't want anyone to have to take the time to make a new character in the middle of the game. Like, and she is not subtle about it. So she wanted to continue this little storyline that she had DM'd off of a module involving giants. So she had us go up against a giant. And because she's very new to the game, she looked up giants in the monster manual. And she picked one without really understanding the implications of what she picked. If she had picked a hill giant, okay. It's probably doable. A stone giant? Maybe. I think that's the next highest up. She picked a fire giant. We are a group of level 3s. So a fire giant would annihilate us. And so as soon as she said, "You see a fire giant," I just like chuckled. And I'm like, "You wrote down the stats of this fire giant, huh?" She's like, "Yep." And she rolled bad on initiative, so a few of us take our turns. I think someone rolled like a crit or something, so, you know, no one really realized how high its AC was right away. And then it gets to her turn, and she starts looking at, like, the attack she's doing and the damage it does. And she's just like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think you're seeing the stats now." Because its attack would do like 4d6 plus 12 or something like that. I mean, it would just obliterate us. So she decides just on a whim dumb down the damage real quick as she attacks. And she's like, okay, you take 8 damage. And the player she hit is like, oh, I'm dead. Because they were already weak for whatever reason. And I'm like, and she's like, oh, she's like, this horrified her that she actually killed a player or knocked them out. And I'm like, oh, mom, you did too much damage. Maybe you meant 2 damage. And she's like, okay, it did 2 damage. And I'm just like, I can't handle it. I cannot handle that. Because I prefer a system where we see a fire giant and it's there, you know, it's in the game, but we fucking shit our pants because we know it will obliterate us, and it will if we mess with it, you know? In this, the way that she runs it, I could run up and give it a hug and I would never die because she would be terrified of killing me, you know? If there's no fear or no possibility of death, what is the point? So she completely neuters this fire giant. She sticks to the 2 damage for the rest of the fight. And she has like treants there with us that are helping us out. And the treants hit like every turn and do like 28 damage each. So we don't even need to do, we could just sit down at this point. We don't need to do anything. So anyway, we kill the fire giant, we continue on, we get to this village that's been, like, enslaved by a giant. And, we fight some orcs and we, like, free some of the people. And we hear that the giant's on the way. And so the giant, of course, turns out to be another fire giant. And they're like, oh, the fire giant will be here in the morning. And so one of the players is like, well, let's dig a 30-foot hole overnight, and we'll lead him into, we'll disguise it, and we'll lead him into it, and then once he's in the hole, we'll kill him. And by this point, I had just, like, checked out. And, you know, any other night, maybe I would have started being like, you can't dig a 30-foot hole overnight with a bunch of peasants here using shovels. But my mom's just like, okay. And we dig the 30-foot hole. We lead the giant into it. He never gets out of the hole, and we just murder him. And that's the end of this session. And I'm like, I told her afterwards, like, I can't play. I can't play with this. I'd almost rather DM. Like, it's, like, painful to me. Because when I play, you know, I adhere to as much logic as I can. And if you're just throwing out logic and you're throwing out the fear of death and you're throwing out any sort of repercussions of any possibility, I just can't handle it. Now, it's possible she'll get better and she'll learn and she'll realize what she's doing and so on and so forth, but I don't know. Part of the problem is D&D. She is pretty overwhelmed by 5th edition D&D and all the rules and all the monsters and all the stats and all our spells and all our abilities. And if we continue to level up, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. So I gave her maze rats, and I'm just like, read these 12 pages. It's super simple. This is what you should run until, you know, you get comfortable just DMing. She has to tackle learning how to DM and learning all the rules. And it's just a bit much, I think. Because she liked the look of the fire giant. She thought, oh, this looks cool and scary. I'm going to use this. And in some other simpler games, she could have just given it like custom little stats that made it not that terrifying. And just sort of a hard fight. But she wrote down the fire giant stats, which were ridiculous. And then she tried to course correct in the middle of the session, and she just you know, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll come to another session if she's gonna run maze rats, but you know, no D&D is better than bad D&D. So I'd almost just rather sit down and play a board game or something, just play like Arcadia Quest or something like that. I don't know. But and the real problem is everyone else, like I said, everyone else really enjoyed the session. They came up with the 30-foot hole idea and they fought fire giants and they had laughs and they liked it. And I didn't, but they said that if I don't come, none of them will come. And it's just ridiculous. I didn't do anything that whole session. I was just tired and I just sat there and like nodded the whole time. I didn't tell them to do anything. They did the whole session themselves, but whatever the case, they won't come if I'm not there because I am Mr. D&D. And it's just, you know, I just was trying to introduce you guys to a new hobby. I don't know why I have to be shackled here till the end of time. Ideally, you guys would just get the hang of it all yourselves, and you would just have this thing without me, but I guess that's not the case. So, yeah, we'll see how Maze Rats go. We're not playing next week due to Easter, but in a couple weeks, we'll see how Maze Rats goes. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all there's to say. I'm tired. I don't even know if I'll be recording any Monster Hunter tonight. It's been a long day. And so now I got this whole house. Working on closing this house. We got a home inspection this week. Hopefully everything's all good and up and all that stuff. And, yeah, I don't know when we're gonna close. I think the whole, like, the whole housing mortgage system is, like, entirely backed up right now. Everything is, you know, people are buying houses left, right, and center. It's crazy. It's a madhouse. So I think we're mostly just waiting on the mortgage company and all that. But eventually I should get it. And it will be great. It'll be great. Maybe I can finally get some rest. Alright. That's good enough. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.